This is a Willets Point Shea Stadium bound 7 express train. The next and last stop is Willets Point, Shea Stadium.
Oh, yes, it is the Subway to Shea podcast. Anthony Rivera here with you, talking about all the news and happenings surrounding that team from Queens, the New York Mets. It's episode 194 from the Subway to Shea studios in my office. Make sure, and you could see it at the top of the screen, make sure you are following Subway to Shea on X, Instagram, and TikTok at Subway to Shea. You can follow me personally. You can see it right there at Ant Rivera 86. And you can subscribe on YouTube as well as Apple Podcasts and Spotify if you like to listen. But if you want to be a part of the chat, you want to be a part of the conversation, make sure you are tuned into YouTube and subscribed on YouTube. Like the video, share it. Make sure other Met fans are able to see what's going on. And the Mets just wrapped up what was a 6-game road trip out to Sacramento. I was going to say Oakland, but out to Sacramento against the Athletics, as well as in Minnesota. And they finished 3-3. They won the series against the Athletics. They lost the series against Minnesota. You think to yourself, 3-3 against these two teams, but it was a whole big mess of this team still not being able to hit on offense, this team not playing crisp defense, and that comes from some of their best players. But the real story of today, and I only want to talk about this on this episode. We are not going to go any further. Obviously, you can see the title, the Soto clickbait. After we talk about this today, I don't want to get into it because, look, the Mets are doing, outside of this series loss, which is their first off, it's the first time this season that they lost 2 in a row. Let's make that clear. They've been playing very well with a mid-tier, I would like to say, pitching staff that has pitched way beyond expectations. You got an offense that's not even hitting on all cylinders, a bottom of the lineup that's just not doing anything. And even the guys at the top of the line, the guys that you're expecting to do stuff, aren't. And the only one that's basically carrying the team on his back is the polar bear, Pete Alonso. But the big story has been about Juan Soto and, why is he being pitched differently this year than last year? Does he miss being at the Yankees? Does he not? Look, a lot of this stuff, and as you can see in the title, a lot of this stuff is clickbait. They want you to read this stuff. And there are a lot of Met fans that will buy into this stuff and will be sucked in, and they'll call into the radio stations and they'll just get sucked into everything that happens that's so negative with this team. And there's really not much to be negative at this moment in time outside of the last 2 days and the 2 losses. But I do have a guest on, and I'm going to bring him on right now. Good friend to the show, Bob Walters from the Locked Up Sports podcast. Huge Mets fan. First off.
Yes.
He's got the shirt on. I mean, come on. You could tell right off the bat he's a huge Mets fan. And Bob, I just want to, first off, how you doing, man? It's been a while since the last time we talked.
I mean, I ride the 7 train every day. The 7 train every day. It's about time I get on the show, right?
Absolutely. How you been? How you been, man?
I'm good. And listen, I'm with you on the Soto thing. Let's pump the brakes a little bit, right?
It's just nonsense. A lot of it. I know this all stems from this interview that came out of the New York Post with Mike Puma, who had asked Soto, you're getting pitched differently than you were last year. And Soto said, it was different. He had the best hitter in baseball behind him. More pitches he was receiving in the strike zone, less intentional walks. Let's be honest. That's 100% true. I mean, but Aaron Judge is what? He's a top 3, top 4 player in all of Major League Baseball. He could be, by the end of his career, he's going to be a Hall of Famer. I mean, he said nothing wrong here.
No, but also, I mean, what is Alonso right now? Alonso, you could argue he's the best hitter in baseball, right?
Yeah.
Or the hottest hitter in baseball, at least. And why would you want to pitch to Alonso? And he burned them when they did walk Soto. Alonso came up and burned them, the bases clearing double. And listen, I think a lot of times the media wants to, like, they bitch and moan when some when they don't say anything and they give him just vanilla answers, and then they say this. Now they're all coming out going, "Oh, why'd he say this? He shouldn't have said it." I think it also stems. It came kind of on the heels of him not hustling down the first. So there was that. Which listen, that always looks bad, no matter what. And I get it. No, you're not going to always. Everyone's not going to always run it out like Pete Rose, but it looks bad, no matter what. It always looks bad. Came on the heels of that, and listen, you can't justify. There was nothing he could do in April to justify $750 million, right? That's like 2 championships. That's what's going to justify $750 million. So he couldn't do anything. I think it's just a whole bunch of nothing. I think, like you said, clickbait.
We're not even a month through the baseball season. I mean, he's basically earned what? Maybe like $1 million or $2 million right now through that time.
Yeah. He's earned a couple years of our salaries.
Yeah, at the very least. But like this whole thing, this back and forth of, people thought he was taking shots at Pete Alonso, and, he really doesn't want to be a Met anymore. He misses being at Yankee Stadium, and he's not doing the Soto shuffle, and you can see him in the outfield. He looks upset. I mean, how is he supposed to feel when he's obviously not producing to the levels he's known to produce for? That's on him, and I'm pretty sure he feels like it's on him as well. Like you said, with Pete Alonso, I mean, he's been the protection, the best protection you could possibly get outside of Aaron Judge this season. And you look at the rest of the lineup, Pete Alonso's not really being protected, and he's still hitting a whole lot.
Thank God we have Pete Alonso, because I don't know where they'd be without him. I mean, he's carrying completely, like you said, he's carrying the team. The offense is very stagnant now. They haven't hit with runners in scoring position again today. They first and second, nobody out in what was it, the 10th inning, couldn't push a run across. The defense has been shaky. Lindor has booted a couple balls. You had Acuna today, was out of position in a couple areas. I mean, listen, with Soto, I think, and it's not like he's hitting 110. Soto's, it's not terrible. It's 1 month. And maybe he does miss the Yankees a little bit, but he spent the whole year there. He worked there for a whole year. He went to the World Series with them. It's understandable. Listen, and if for some reason he feels, I should be a Yankee, well, too bad, because you signed a $50 million, 15-year deal. So he'll be all right. He'll be all right.
Yeah, I totally agree that he's going to be fine here. People talking about maybe Soto should keep the thoughts to himself, but you can't have it both ways. He's either going to be candid, like you want these players to be, or otherwise you're not going to get anything, and people are just going to create the clickbait anyway. So I honestly, I just don't care about this stuff.
No.
There are more important topics that should be talked about with this team. Even the fact that he hit 2 home runs in the last 2 games, and that got completely ignored for the fact that there was this whole thing of, does he want to go back to he wants to move to the Yankees? Or like, it's just a whole lot of fluff, a whole lot of nonsense. And there are worse problems for this New York Mets team in a season that has started off pretty well.
Yeah. Hey, listen, right. We this is the first series loss, I think. And it goes back to even last year, a couple series. So, I mean, they're playing well. And listen, a lot of people struggle when they come here or they sign a big contract. There's a lot of pressure. He's everything now for the Mets. He wasn't everything for the Yankees. The Yankees are big. We get it. The Yankees are the big brother. But with the Mets now, he's involved in everything. If the people don't show up to the ballpark, it's going to be because of him. If people, if they don't win, it's going to be because of him. If they're not hitting, he's got a lot on his shoulders. He's going to get used to it. Even Piazza struggled a bit when he came here. Like everybody struggles.
I mean, recently, right?
Lindor, yeah, everybody. It's a big, listen, New York's a different spot. And he's already proved that he could do it in New York. So he's going to be fine. I'm not worried at all. He's too good. He's too good to not, to have this be a bust or something. And it's 1 month with, calm down. They just, everybody wants to go day to day. And I learned last year that if you go day to day with baseball, you're not going to live a long life. So you can't go like that with baseball.
I think last year was like the true turning point for me. After this team starts 0-5, they kind of, get around 500. Have an absolutely awful May, which every year they have one terrible month that sinks the season. It was May, and figured out a way to turn it around and get themselves into the postseason and all the way to within 2 games of getting to the World Series. I can't really complain. Like, after every loss at this point in time, I'm just like, all right, we'll go into the next game. once we get to probably, September, that's when things start, or August, maybe even like after the trade deadline, that's when things start, picking up a little bit. But this early in the season, it's just a little hard for me to go too crazy. And you mentioned Soto's hit in New York already, right? And you got to talk about the resume that these players have of what kind of a player Soto is. And that's why he signed that $756 million contract with this team. You look at Francisco Lindor, who's not off to a hot season, not as bad as last one, but he's not off to a great season again this year. And then he picks it up. So these guys have the resumes. There are other players that I'm worried about that I really wish they would focus on. One being, Brandon Nimmo. You want to talk about the Mets offensive woes continuing. I feel like Brandon Nimmo may be more of the poster child. I know it goes to Soto because he's the new toy. He's the expensive toy. But Brandon
low hanging
Nimmo,
fruit. It's easy to pick on Soto.
Yeah.
And Nimmo, and listen, with baseball, and I was just as guilty of it up until last year too. I'm just like you. I kind of learned my lesson last year. Last year in May, I was sitting there going, how are we going to get rid? Who's going to take Lindor's contract? What are we going to do? How are we going to get rid of it? But you learn that the people hit to they usually get to the back of their baseball cards, right? No matter how they get there, they usually get there. Now, I feel the same way about Nimmo too. I'm not too worried about Nimmo. He was hurt. He had the knee issue in spring training. It was still early. Where you say, okay, the spring training stuff is still kind of relevant. And he reached base the first, I think it was 7 or 8 or 9 games. But Nimmo will be okay, I think. And the center is Nimmo going to play center field. And, you got a lot of things going on with this team, and the fact that this is the first loss that they've had in a series all year. Listen, I'm not worried about it. I'm happy. The Mets are playing well, right? Our hockey teams aren't in the playoffs, so this is doing it for me.
Mine is. Mine is. If you can see back there, the Devils are, but they might be quickly.
Devils. I thought you were Islanders. All right.
No, they might be set for a quick exit from the Carolina Hurricanes. So I can't get too excited about it. But the only thing that, and I understand what you're saying, and I agree with the whole thing with Nimmo. The one thing that kind of scares me and worries me about him is his whole approach has completely changed offensively. He's not, and I know he's not batting leadoff, and that's a different animal than batting fourth, but his best at bats come when he's, taking pitches and working at bats. Almost every big spot, this guy's first pitch hitting and getting out. And so it does concern me a little bit that maybe batting fourth is not for him, and it would help if other guys stepped up in the lineup behind him, because it's like, oh, who are we going to put in the cleanup spot? Can't be Mark Vientos at this moment in time. He's not barely.
That's what I'd be worried about. That's why I'd start to be worried is Vientos. Nimmo, I think he's not a cleanup hitter. I think everybody. I think he would probably tell you he's not a cleanup hitter. He's probably be better at 5 or 6. But he's also now he's trying to fit into the new role. He's also not a leadoff hitter. He's probably saying to himself, okay, let me fit in. I don't want to look like a leadoff hitter up there and take pitches. I think Nimmo's okay. As far as Vientos, I think Vientos got a little full of himself last year, is what I think.
It's quite possible. And I was worried about the sophomore slump. I thought even though, he did hit really well, he was able to come out of slumps really quick. And then seeing him in the postseason, I was like, man, this guy has so much confidence right now. I can't see him not being, at least at the worst case scenario, hitting, 20, 25 home runs in a season. But he has struggled right off the bat. He's been hitting a little bit better and seeing the ball a little bit better over this road trip. And I hope that's something that turns around for him. He got the day off in the final game of this Twins series, but he is a person that you thought that you were going to get a little bit more production from to help out this offense, because you're not getting it from Starling Marte. You're definitely not getting it from Brett Beatty. No. Jesse Winker every so often will get a big time hit.
That's what Winker is, though.
Winker's kind of exactly
that's what he does.
Torrens is not going to keep up the pace he's playing at, and you hope that Jeff McNeil comes back in time, as well as Francisco Alvarez, who we'll get into later on in the show. But this offense is struggling so much, and the bottom of the lineup it feels like just an empty hole at this point. And it's felt like that for a couple of years. I feel like they have not solved that problem yet.
No, and the bottom, right. The bottom of the lineup in general, besides Alonso, is really, it's not hitting. Vientos, big slump to start, and then again with the not hustling thing down the line. Listen, Vientos, I think he got a little full of himself. I think he was kind of like after last year, this is easy. This is great. What are they talking about? New York is hard. I'm in the playoffs. I'm hitting the home runs. This is easy. And, baseball humbled you just like it does everybody. But I think they're going to be okay. And now that we've seen, the bullpen, not I don't want to say falter, but it hasn't been perfect now the last couple days, right?
Absolutely.
And now you see that with the perfect bullpen, you could kind of get away with that stuff. Not hitting. And they were coming in, they were throwing 4 or 5 innings a night, the bullpen, no runs. So now that they've kind of come back down to earth a little bit, now the hitting is kind of coming to the surface, and we're seeing it. And they're losing a couple of games, and the defense hasn't been great. Listen, they got to play better. They're going back home. They got to win some games, because this is not going to be an easy division. As much as we think, okay, the Braves aren't playing well, and it's going to be a tough division. The Mets still probably, they're not the best team in the division. I didn't think they were the best team coming into the season. So I think, listen, they got to get it together. And I think they will. Like I said, I think they will. I think the bullpen will probably come back down to earth a little more. The hitting will pick up a little bit. And the starting pitching is going to be okay. They're going to be okay.
Yeah, you got so much great production from the starting pitching and the bullpen, as you mentioned. Once that starts to even out with, you look at the pitchers that they have, it starts to even out a little bit now. The offense becomes a bigger part, and hopefully the offense kind of evens out, and we'll have a nice playing field for the rest of the season. We're going to have McNeil coming back at a certain point. Francisco Alvarez, they're both at rehab games right now. Hopefully, Frankie Montas and Sean Manaea can get themselves healthy. Otherwise, we may see a Brandon. We saw Justin Hageman today, who pitched very well. I mean, David Stearns really knows how to pick some of these players out here. You don't always get the top of the line players, but you're like, man, why did we sign Justin Hageman? And then he comes in and he pitches 3 shutout innings. And I was happy for him. His family was there. I was happy that he didn't take the loss there, because that would have sucked. I mean,
yeah, because he pitched so well. He got out of that jam too in his second inning. He struck out 4 batters right in those first 2 innings. He got out of I think it was first and second, nobody out jam.
Yeah.
He pitched well.
Yeah, he pitched well, but you're starting to see, like you mentioned, a lot of the other pitchers in the bullpen. It's a part of being overused. I was like, yeah, we're getting 5 innings, but if we're going 4 or 5 innings from the bullpen, I'm gonna have to start praying for May, because that's when all of this is gonna come to light, where we're gonna be overusing these guys. Huascar Brazaban's pitching multiple innings. Max Kranick, he gave up a couple runs. We're starting to see a little bit of the cracks from Jose Butto as well. And you just gotta, the Mets really have to get themselves together, especially defensively. I really lauded the Mets defense, especially when they signed Clay Holmes, who struggled with the Yankees defense. I was like, oh, he's going to come to the Mets, way better defense. And we're just not seeing it from Francisco Lindor, the defense. Tyrone Taylor gave up 2 runs today in center field. You got, I hate to do this, but he does have a noodle arm in left field. Brandon Nimmo can't throw in left field. And his covering the ground, it boggles my mind sometimes. The outfield is just not great at this moment in time.
No, especially with Siri out, because now you got, he was the best outfielder we had, and Nimmo's kind of out of position in every aspect with this team, right? They got him as cleanup hitter. He's not a cleanup hitter. They got him as a left fielder. We want to have a decent arm. He doesn't have a decent arm. When he's in center fielder, he's not a prototypical center fielder where he's tracking things down real fast, So with Nimmo, it is what it is with Nimmo. But as far as, the outfield has struggled, and Nimmo, Lindor, I mean, he with the 2 errors, I can live with that. Those are just, physical errors. He's a good defensive player. We know Lindor is. I didn't like Acuna being out of position on a couple cutoff plays today. That could have cost him a run. It cost him a runner at second base. Hageman was able to get out of the inning. But, it's just little things like that. And little things like that add up, especially because the first 3 weeks of the season, the Mets had 9 Mariano Riveras in the bullpen, right? And of course, everything's going to be peachy when you got that. When you're coming in and they're just shutting them down for 5 innings, that's not going to happen. It's not realistic. So now they're coming back down to earth a little bit. The hitting is, like I said, boiling to the top, that they're not hitting. They don't hit with runners in scoring position. They make mental errors in the field. They get it together, right? It's time now to get it together. It's not panic time or anything like that. But You don't want to fall. You want to stay playing, as well as they have, like 5 or 6 games above 500.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The thing too, and I posted this on X after the game last season. After these tough losses, the Mets never let that harbor them for 5, 6 games. Once we got out of May, they never let these big losses affect them and linger. They always came out. So I'd like to see how they come into this St. Louis Cardinals series at home, 4 games set against a team that there's no love lost between these two teams. That's for sure. And I just want to see them at the very least split this series. Take the series would be my 100% wanting them to do. But if they split the series, come back on Thursday, be refreshed, be ready to go, get the win there, and start a new winning streak for this team. Because like I said earlier, this is the first time all year that they've lost 2 in a row. So, the team has been playing well. They have been doing well. And I want that to continue. We talk about Nimmo and Tyrone Taylor. You mentioned it earlier. Stanley Babbage asking who will fill in for Siri at center field. And, I haven't been on since the injury on Saturday where he fractured his left tibia there. Foul ball off the shin in the 3-1 loss against the Athletics. It looked scary. They had to cart him out because that Sacramento stadium is just awful. I mean, it was like playing in the Polo Grounds. You remember? I don't know if you've seen pictures of the Polo Grounds.
I don't remember. I'll tell you that. I don't remember the Polo Grounds.
No, but there are pictures. There are pictures of the Polo Grounds and all the players going to center field because that's where the clubhouses were. And that's what happens here in Sacramento, where the clubhouses are in the outfield.
The carts are breaking down to take them out there. Yeah, it's a mess. It's a mess. And the MLB's got 2 teams playing in minor league ballparks. That's not talked about a lot either. That's not very healthy for the game in itself. But yeah, and I was laughing too when I was sitting in backstage in the green room and you would and you called me Oakland A's. I've been doing that. I still do that. I did that just the other day. But yeah, but we'd see who's going to play center field. I mean, with Tyrone Taylor, little Nimmo, right? It's just going to be. I think they're probably going to patch it together for a little while. What do you think's going to? Who do you think's going to play?
The options right now, obviously Tyrone Taylor is going to get a lot of the time, right? He's going to get some of this time, most of the time in center field. But with the bat not going for him, maybe they throw Brandon Nimmo now in center field. I think they will. Starling Marte, obviously, he's just not going to play the outfield. But I mean, I guess he's in case of emergency, Jesse Winker as well. But now we're hearing that Jeff McNeil is going to start taking reps in center field. He's only played 3 games in center field, and I think it was in 2023. There's no rescue.
I can see that though because Acuna's hitting. Listen, Acuna is the future. He is the future.
He's heating up.
Because it's not going to be Beatty. I don't think it's going to be Beatty. Beatty's going to, they're giving him his last chance and they're kind of, giving him all of April, I think, which I think is fair. Because, and I think the Mets screwed him up in the very beginning when they brought him up for that Brave series. Then they sent him back down. And, I think that screws with a player. I don't want them to do that like with some of these kids down there. Bring them up and then send them back if they struggle. But I think Acuna, right now, I'd almost rather Acuna than McNeil. McNeil has not hit since really in 2 years almost, since he won a batting title.
Yeah, I think it comes to really preference, right? Would you prefer McNeil or Acuna in center field, or would you prefer McNeil or Acuna at second base? Now, Acuna has played very well at second base. He saved a couple of runs on some diving stops. And, even after that first series in Houston where he had a big mental error to unfortunately not get a double play, which, cost them a victory there. But he's been playing very well defensively. And now the bat's starting to heat up. In his last 7 games, he's batting .333. So he's doing pretty well.
And he ignites things too. He's fast. He's good on the base paths. Like you said, he made a real good play today in the hole at second base. Listen, he's young, so you're gonna have to live with some mistakes. There's gonna be some mistakes. It is what it is. That's with all young players. But I can live with them. And McNeil just frustrates me the way. And I'm a big McNeil guy. I bought a jersey when he won the batting title and everything. But McNeil has just been frustrating to me since then. And now, I don't know if he's going to be a good center fielder because it's not just people think the outfield is just shag and fly balls, and it's not. That's not what the outfield is. You got to especially center field. You got to be able to patrol center field, and there's a lot of area out there, especially at Citi Field. But I'd be worth giving it a shot. Definitely worth giving it a shot.
Yeah, Acuna's got the speed on the base paths. He's got 4 stolen bases in the last 7 games here, and also has been working out walks. He's been having good at bats as well. The power's not there like it was last year. You remember when he hit a couple home runs?
Yeah,
they kind of figured him out.
But he had a great at bat on opening day. Was that opening day?
Yeah, off a Hader, of
Yes.
Josh Hader working out that walk, but. I want to see more and more of Acuna now that it looks like he's starting to settle in, which we have not seen at all, from Brett Baty, who had another great spring. He'll send them down to the minor leagues. He'll be good in the minor leagues again.
Yeah, he's a 4A player. He's a 4A player.
Yeah, there was even mention in one of the post games that even he could possibly see center field, but I don't know.
He doesn't hit enough to be center field. He doesn't hit enough, and neither does McNeil, but McNeil at least has a track record.
That's the thing. Track record, resume is what this team needs, especially if they are going to keep moving forward and keep trying to win here. Green Machine saying Acuna's speed alone is a game changer. Absolutely. He's been a part of so many runs that have been scored at the bottom of that lineup. That's why we're not seeing much from Lindor as well either. The opportunities when these guys are not getting on base to set up Lindor in the top of the lineup doesn't help either. But even in their big chances, they are still not coming through. We saw a big strikeout Lindor the night before in game 2 where he struck out in the 9th inning. You got Soto striking out and hitting into double plays. This team is just all sorts of in disarray right now when it comes to the offense.
Yeah, and someone like Acuna and someone like Acuna is going to be in the middle of rallies. He's just that kind of player. He reminds me almost, I don't even want to say it, but almost like a Jose Reyes, where he's got that personality, that bubbly personality. He's fast. He's excited to be up there and play. He's always looks like he's having a good time, whether, whatever's going on. I didn't like the sunglasses today. I don't like those old school Oakley deals he had on, but he's in the middle. He's going to be in the middle of rallies, and he's going to be a good player on this team. And I just see him as a fit here. And Baty, I feel like he's just struggling. We're waiting for Baty to fail. And nobody expects anything. Even with the huge spring he had, nobody expects anything from Baty. They were calling for his head a week into the season. Oh, send him down. He can't hit, And I think they'll give him till April to give him another week or week and a half, maybe this homestand. And then you'll probably start to see when McNeil comes back, they'll start to, you'll see Baty go back down.
Yeah, Lane Kerner asking, do you send down Brett Baty and Acuna? I think Acuna stays because you need someone to, at the very least, back up Francisco Lindor in case he gets hurt or if he needs a day. He's the only shortstop on the roster. Brett Baty's not going to be able to play shortstop, that's for sure. So you have Acuna who could play short, who could play second, probably could throw him at third. Obviously,
if they're going to throw McNeil in center field, you might have Acuna playing every day. Or if McNeil really comes back and struggles like he has, we've seen McNeil struggle to the point where he needed to be benched. Then you're going to have Acuna. And I'm almost at the point where I'm okay to say I'm ready to put Acuna, prime time, almost every day. Let him play it out. Let him be a major leaguer now, Now, if he's going to sit on the bench, then I don't want him here. Because you're not doing any use for him. You're not doing any good for him sitting on the bench as a kid like that. That's how you screw up Baty and stuff like that. He has to play. So if he's going to be here, I want him to play on the field. I want him to play. I want him to be on the field in the lineup. I don't want him sitting on the bench. If he's going to be on the bench, send him back down and let him get his reps in.
It's weird. I've had more confidence in both Acuna turning his game around, which we're starting to see, and even Mark Vientos. I have a little bit more patience with Mark Vientos than I do with Brett Baty, because
I'm starting to lose patience at Vientos, though.
You have to start getting concerned and a little bit worried here. He's starting to have, like I mentioned earlier, a little bit better at bats here. If he can start getting that power going and start lifting some home runs, I think it's all in the head for him. I feel like you mentioned earlier, maybe he got too big on himself.
Yeah, it was too easy. It was too ezy. When you come up like that, it's like the Dan Marino effect almost. Like you come up, you go right to the Super Bowl, you think you're going to be there every year. It was a little too easy for him last year. And it was great, and he was fantastic, and he was one of the best players on this team last year. But, baseball's a hard game, and I'm sure he knows that. And, he's starting to he got knocked back down to earth a little bit, and then the hustle thing, and he'll be okay. I think he will be okay. I think he's too good. Because that wasn't a fluke last year. That wasn't a fluke.
No.
So he will be okay, but it might take a little while. You don't want to struggle. But the good news is, while all these struggles are going on, we're in first place and we're winning ball games and they're playing well, right? It's not like they're the last place started like the Braves did or something like that. So they'll be okay.
Yeah, you have to. The thing that stinks is you have to win these series against these terrible teams, or otherwise you end up like last season where you're fighting until the last day to try to get in to the postseason, and every loss becomes crucial. But with the start that they're having, I think that this is a good barometer of how they can get themselves going. You have a good month to start, and you build off of that. And, Mendoza really has the pulse of this team and every player on it, the whole family aspect with the Cohens and David Stern, everything has seemed to work out for them. And I think it will work out for them in the end. You talk about some of these other players here, and I know Lane Kerner mentioned that the Mets sent down Max Kranick.
Yeah, but that was just a roster move. They're bringing him right back up. That was
I saw a lot of people. I was like, you know what? I'm going to sit back and look at the comments here and see how many people freak out about this. Max Kranick.
When I first read it, I was like, well, wait. And then I was like, oh, okay. They're just doing it as a roster move. He'll be back. He probably never left, to be honest with you.
No,
he never left.
Because
he'll be back up to tomorrow or tonight.
Yeah, so usually it's 15 days that they have to wait until they come back up.
Yeah, but he has options left.
Well,
and what they're going to do is they're going to move Siri onto the IL.
Exactly.
And then they can there'll be a roster spot open and they'll bring him back.
Yep. So they'll bring him back. He'll be just fine. Be back in the bullpen. And then you have, once McNeil is ready and comes back, he'll probably take over for Beatty. And then Francisco Alvarez will take Senga's spot in the lineup.
Senga's been okay, right? He swings the bat okay. He's good with he's good at defense. And Terrence throws everybody out. It's crazy.
If this team offensively is firing on all cylinders, right? If they're doing their job, then you probably have one of the best backstops because they just play so well defensively. They're throwing runners out at second base. You're getting great production offensively from Terrence, which, at some point is going to come back down to the medium. And every time Senga gets a hit, it's an even bigger boost positive.
You gotta love Senga. You gotta love that story and everything. The older guy bagging groceries, that Kurt Warner type of story. He's also, he's now in the big leagues for the first time, and he's playing all right. And he knew this was just a month-long thing while Alvarez, gets it together and heals up. But now Alvarez, that's another one that we're gonna have to sit through like a spring training type of slump for Alvarez. So that's why it's important to get these guys who are in slumps now, get them out of slumps, because you can't expect Alvarez to come and just light it up out of nowhere. You can't expect that. And so you got to get people like Vientos hitting and Beatty. Listen, Beatty's going to be gone here too. But Senga, listen, I enjoyed it for while we've had it. The month that we've had it and a little bit, he's come up. He brought some life to the team. He's an older guy, so he's not a kid. And he's gotten a couple hits too. He's done more than, so I'm happy for him.
I even said last episode that if you're getting this production from both of those catchers, that I would not rush Francisco Alvarez up here like they did last year. And you could tell that they rushed him too quickly from that hand injury, or whether it was them or him rushing himself. He wasn't the same player. He still seemed injured. And the fact that he's, coming back now, same type of injury, same hand. He even got hit again the other day in the minor leagues after hitting a home run.
Yeah, catchers get their ass kicked behind that plate.
They do, but you don't have to rush him if these two guys are holding their own. You can ease him back in because you want him 100% for that stretch run. It's like getting a fresh at bat at the trade deadline. You really want him to be 100.
Are you one of those guys when we get a guy back in July? That's our trade deadline pickup?
Not necessarily. I just like using that tagline because it's always been used, especially for the Mets.
It works.
It does work. But if this team needs to make a move at the trade deadline, they got to make a move. Like they did the couple moves that they did last time to bolster the bullpen and bring
I think they're ready to make a big move at the trade deadline. If they're right there, they're ready to make a big move. They can do something like that. Now is the time because now they're a win now team.
They are. They have the prospects that are now healthy again, right? Mauricio just started playing in games. You got Drew Gilbert, got sent back up to AAA. Who knows? He might be actually a center fielder we might be talking about in a couple of weeks if things work out for him. Jet Williams is healthy and playing now. So you got people who are trade bait. This is why I want Brett Beatty to play well, because
yes,
we
because you get
want
rid of
his
him.
trade
Someone
capital
take
to be up there.
I always love that around the trade deadline when as soon as the guy you want to trade starts playing, you want him to play well. So you can trade him and get something back. And people are always like, nah, why are you going to trade him when he's so good? Why is it? Because then people aren't, because the trades that you want to make, most people want to make are ridiculous. They want to trade nothing and get everybody. You know, you got to realize there's two teams in these trades. So it's like that. But you're right with Beatty. I would love to see him, pick it up a little bit, at least to get, right now he's worth a bag of balls. So it's not really, it's nothing, but pick it up enough. Because Beatty, listen, I was saying even just last week, I was talking on my show. I was talking to Bob Usla, and I was saying that Beatty is a prime candidate for a list that I have on my show. It's called Former Met, Now Good. And Beatty is a prime candidate for that. And I don't want to see him on that list in July. I don't want to see him tearing it up somewhere, but you want him to be okay and start to hit enough where he's at least tradable.
Yeah, you could put him a part of a package of, as Green Machine says, get the Alcantara trade that everybody keeps talking about. That would be nice. I would definitely like to see a young starting pitcher that has some years if we could pry some away, but it's going to cost money. But what are you going to do? I want to shout out to everybody here in the chat. We have over 112 people in the room right now. Thank you, everyone, for being a part of this and for being a part of the chat as well. Make sure you like the video. Make sure you subscribe, not only to Subway to Shea, but Locked Up Sports as well. Bob Walters has a great show that he puts out there. I've been on it before. A lot of fun. You mentioned talking to Bob Husler. You also talked to Keith Rad. We both had him on the show.
He's a Yankee fan. He's a Yankee fan.
Yes.
Little disappointed that he's a Yankee fan.
I saw that, but maybe you never know. Maybe his tide turns. I don't know. You're a big Rangers fan, so one of the radio hosts that I like that hosts is Don LaGreca. Yeah, and he grew up a Devils fan, and now he's a Rangers fan because he's been doing the Rangers. So maybe we can get
I think he says that because he knows the backlash. If he sat there and rooted for the Devils, the backlash would be outrageous. and let me ask you: could you see yourself being a Yankee fan? No, right? No. He's the same way.
I like
Keith Rad. I like Keith Rad. And he does a good job and everything.
Awesome.
But he's a great guy. He's a great guy. And I needled him with it a little bit. I gave him a hard time about it. But still, I was like, at least he admitted it, right? At least he didn't come on and be like, yo, I'm a Mets fan. And then when you find out, you start digging into his, like we're investigative journalists or something. You start digging into his past and you're like, oh, wait a minute. He's a Yankee fan. There was another thing that bothered me is he left the Grand Slam single game early. Come on! I don't care who you are. I wouldn't have left the Boone home run game early, even if I was there.
Yeah,
right. You can't leave.
It's hard for me to leave any baseball game, any Mets game. I'll leave Yankee games a little earlier.
Yeah,
I'll leave them a little earlier. Unless it's if it's playoff games, you're there.
Yeah,
you're there the entirety. And I've been to a couple of Mets playoff games. The Benny Agbayani home run in 2000.
Okay.
And then DeGrom's last start at Citi Field.
Okay.
So yeah. So
the Agbayani game was a good one. That was a good one.
13 innings. It was freezing. I mean, that Shea Stadium could have tipped over at that point. You always hear those stories. Oh man, Shea Stadium moves around so much. It felt like it.
Yeah, I was the same thing like I was at the Piazza 9/11 home run, and it was like that.
Yeah,
and that was just a regular season game.
Yeah, as Green Machine says, can't leave, got to stay till the last out.
Yeah, you got to stay till the last out just in case there's a Grand Slam single. That's why you have to.
Yeah, of course. You cannot leave those games for those specific reasons at all. We were just talking about Hayden Sanger, so let's go from Sanger to Senga. Kodai Senga in ace-like form now.
He's great.
He pitched very well. He's been pitching great. Last two starts has not given up a run against the Athletics on Sunday. 7 innings pitched. Bob, 7 innings we got from a starting pitcher.
It's like 3 games worth for some people.
that is. Only gave up 4 hits,
It's
2 walks.
also the
and he had
A's,
4
though. It's also
strikeouts.
the A's. Let's,
It is. Well,
you
we
know.
gotta. We'll peel back a little bit, and we'll stay reserved. We'll stay calm. But like
I could pitch
anytime I see
I could pitch 4 good innings against the A's if I had to. You know, my life was dependent on it.
anytime I see more than 6 innings, I get very excited. I mean, last year seeing the complete game shutout from Sevy, which we hadn't had since I think DeGrom in 2021. I mean,
and he's struggling. He's struggling a bit. Looks like they made the right choice there, the right call there.
He is. He is struggling a little bit, and I think he wanted to come to the Mets.
It sounded like he wanted to come back, right? With the comments he made last week. Yeah, I agree. I mean,
I liked Sevy, and I wanted him on the team when he became a free agent last year. I would prefer him over Frankie Montas. I think he's just more of a big game pitcher, especially coming from, he's had some big games pitching for the Yankees. So to see him go and swap him out for Montas.
Yeah. You got to cut your losses. You got to know when to cut your losses.
You do. And I think that's that's why David Stearns is the GM and none of us are, right?
Oh yeah,
he knows when it's time to cut the losses. But going back to Kodai Senga, was very efficient in that game. 79 pitches. He has a 1.06 ERA to start the season. 16 strikeouts and 17 innings pitched. The great thing about him is after every game, always accountable, always praising his teammates on and off the field. He's really taken to New York. In that season in 2023, I know he got hurt last year, but he's really a Met. You really can feel that from him.
Yeah, I like the way he looks this year so far. Obviously, you have to, and I think the Mets didn't build him up as this big, star when he came in he was going to be our ace, a top of the line starter, but he's really been, and they need him to be an ace now, especially with Manaea going down. They needed him to step up. Today was kind of the first day that you saw where they threw like a bullpen type of game to get him that extra day rest, right? Because he's in that 6-day plan, which I don't like the 6-day plan, but with the extra day off, and he's going to pitch in the third game this weekend. Is it this weekend? I lose track of days with my job. So it's all just one day. So this weekend he's going to be pitching in the third game. You got Canning, and then I think Peterson, and then Senga. Listen, he's been fantastic. He's given them a lot of innings. He's eating up innings. He's getting strikeouts. He's pitching. He's pitching as good as you can. He's pitching like an ace is what he's doing.
Absolutely. And that's all you can ask from him, especially, can he lead this rotation, like you mentioned, with Manaea and Montas, getting ready for their returns. Deron Rivera, you mentioned the 6-man rotation. We haven't even gotten to that portion. And
no, but well. You're right.
So hopefully he continues. Also mentioning about Jose Quintana, who's had a good start himself. Are you okay with, I know you mentioned to cut the losses. Were you okay with letting Quintana go?
Yeah, I was. Because you know what? Quintana was never, he was okay, right? Was Quintana ever really great for the Mets?
September he was.
Yeah, he pitched big games. He pitched some big games. And don't get me wrong, and I'm grateful that we had him. But to look at it now, it's the same thing like looking at people who have a good seasons, it could very easily come crashing down. It's still April. It was 50 degrees out today. It's not exactly baseball weather yet. It's summer, So listen, Quintana, I hope he has a good season. I'm not gonna root against him or anything like that. I think they did the right thing. I do, because I don't think this regime likes to pay pitchers. They don't pay pitchers big money, and I think it's smart because these pitchers go down like nothing. They're going down left and right? Senga last year. And when they go down, it's always for months at a time. Senga went down last year. We heard 6 weeks, July. And that was in April, right? July, he came back. He came back for 1 start. Even Manaea, he's going to be out a little while. Setback. And now you're looking at July for Manaea too. I don't care what they say. It's July. And I have 0 medical degrees.
And the funny thing is, as soon as I heard that Manaea was going to lose more time, I was like, I'm not even faced by this anymore. This happens all the time.
There's our trade. There's our trade pickup. There's our trade deadline pickup.
We've got our offensive pickup, and now we got our pitching pickup.
We got Manaea.
Deadline. We got Manaea.
What'd you do with the trade deadline? We got Manaea, and we got Siri, and we got
unbelievable. Before we start wrapping up the show, I wanted to get into Edwin Diaz. To trust or not to trust? Do you believe in Edwin Diaz, or are you more like it is what it is with him? I don't think he'll ever be back to the 2022 type of Edwin Diaz. If we could get something in between 2022 and 2024, I will be happy with that. It's just, I think that especially coming out of New York, right? You had possibly the greatest, actually, let me say the greatest closer of all time.
Oh yeah, no,
in Mariano Rivera, right? I mean, there's nothing that can come close to that. We just need him to, and I know people were freaking out the day he gave up 3 runs. I'm like, we're already losing that game. He's got to come and save opportunities. If he blows that, then we have a problem. He did struggle in that game, that first game against Oakland, where he almost blew the game. But he's got
a little John Franco in him, right? He'll get that time run on third base every time.
Yeah,
but he bends but doesn't break. As Gary likes to say. Listen, my general rule is if you're not Mariano Rivera, I don't trust you in the bullpen. That's my general rule. And that's just how it is. They're so up and down, and there are good ones.
The league, though, it's not just
everywhere.
Him.
It's everywhere.
Everywhere.
Yeah. If you're not Mariano Rivera, I don't trust you.
I think that there was one season, and I think it was in Philadelphia. I think it was Brad Lidge. He had like the perfect season that year that they won the World Series in 2008, where he was the best reliever. I don't think I've seen, like, Eric Gagne has faltered. Yeah, all of these relievers
Papelbon was great for a while. I mean, it is what it is. That's just how they are. They're up and down. You kind of grab one while he's hot, get him in there, hopefully you get a good year or two out of him. And with Diaz, since the injury, he was okay. Like I said, he's got John Franco in him. He's got more John Franco than he does Armando Benitez, which is what any Met fan will like, right? So he gets the guys on third. He'll get that time run in scoring position. More times than not, he gets out of it. He does the job more times than not. But he will also you could put it in the bank that he's going to have a couple backbreaking losses, and it's going to be his fault every year. But you can do that with any closer, like we said.
Yeah. And like it was mentioned before, you mentioned about the weather. Duran Rivera saying it as well. You think the weather warms up, the Met starters will, be better. The offense will be better as well. As Green Machine says, closers and relievers are fickle.
Yeah.
When it comes to my big question, my big hypothetical question here, comparing to other Mets closers that we've had in the past, you got to choose one of these guys: Diaz, Franco, Benitez, Wagner, or Familia. Who are you choosing to close your team?
I don't even know. As you went to that list, I was like, I don't know. I might just take John Franco, to be honest with you. I might give me John Franco. You know why? Because he's tough. He's a Brooklyn guy. He's out there. He's a Mets fan. Give me John Franco. You could take Benitez or Edwin Diaz. I'll take John Franco. He'll get that time run on third. But he'll get out of it. You can take that to the bank too.
And he had close to what? He definitely had over 200 saves for his career, but over 400.
And you know what? He's still involved with the team, and he's still around. And I think it was 2 years ago when they one of these games. I was sitting outside of Citi Field, and John Franco just came walking right past me. And I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, I shook his hand, met him. I gave my phone to the police guy, a cop that was right there. I go, hey, can you take a picture of us? Takes the picture and everything. He was as nice as can be. I'm walking onto the 7 train. I look at my phone. The cop takes a picture of himself.
Oh no!
I was pissed. I was like, you got to be kidding me. You got to be 2 pictures right of himself, of his shield and everything. Yeah. I almost went back and was like, what are you doing?
That's awful. You could give that guy a demerit or something after that.
Yeah. Lose a couple of vacation days.
Green Machine saying 2015 Familia was nasty, though. He was nasty, and we all loved him until Game 1 of the World Series when he did that quick pitch and blew it to who was it? Alex Gordon, I think it was in Kansas City. I think it was.
I think so. Game 1 of the World Series hasn't been too kind to the Mets, in the last couple of World Series.
Yeah.
But all those guys you mentioned had a great year. Well, lights out 1 or 2 years. That's what we're saying. That's how they do it. That's what they do. They lights out, and then all of a sudden you're like, what did we give this guy all this money for?
Yeah.
But you just kind of hope that it happens at the worst times.
No, that's the thing. And you're going to get a couple of those. Like you mentioned, you're going to get a couple of those instances where these guys are going to blow big time saves. And he had a couple of those last season where we thought that they were going to be back breaking, even in the last game of the season, right?
They're
Or second to last game of the season. You thought him blowing that 3-run lead was going to end the season for the Mets. Then he comes back out and he nails the save down. Like
you have no idea. You can't
50, 60 pitches.
That's why it's important when you have to have a decent bullpen. Like obviously there's no other Mariano Rivera, but when you have a bad bullpen, it's just backbreaking loss after backbreaking loss after backbreaking loss. And it's demoralizing for the fan base, for the team, for the players. Like when you lose 2-3 games in a row, and we've all seen it as Mets fans, where they just have a series where they just lose 3 walk-offs or something, they lose, and or they blow leads in the 7th inning or later 3 straight days, and you just the rest of the week you just walk around going, oh my God, how are they going to get out of this? And then you never trust the guy again. It's just a good way to sink a team fast is a bad bullpen.
It is. Duran Rivera talking about Franco striking out Bonds in the playoffs in 2000. That was a huge spot. He had a good 2000. I think he even won one of the games in the World Series.
Roll-Age Relief Award, I think he won that year,
absolutely.
maybe.
I mean, he's been he was a solid Met and a solid reliever. So Peter saying you have to trust Diaz. I mean, that's all we can do right now, right?
He's right.
Trust what we have. Trust what we have.
He's right.
And hopefully they don't use him in other, like they had to do last year where he's coming in the 7th and 8th inning. You need this bullpen to do their job as well. And so far, so good with Kranick and even Budo, who's struggled a little bit. But AJ Minter has pitched very well. Ryan Stanek has pitched very well. And those are 2 guys that could set up Edwin Diaz and also close games.
Yeah, Kranick has been fantastic. And that's why everybody bugged out when they sent him down. And they were like, they didn't even – that's talking about clickbait. Kranick sent down to the minors. And people are like, oh, no, they never even read the rest of the article. And they're like, oh, what are we doing here? But he's been fantastic. But again, listen, Max Kranick is not Mariano Rivera either. He's going to have some bad games. And there's going to be you just hope that the offense can outscore the bullpen, too. You want to hope that. And that's what we thought we had with this offense. Hasn't exactly clicked yet. But Pete Alonso, Pete Alonso's carrying this team. Where would we be without him? Imagine they didn't sign him. Talk about, no protection for Soto. Soto's given Alonso's given just as much protection to Soto as Judge did last year. At any point, right now he is. Now, I'm not saying this is going to last. He's not going to have a year like Judge did. But right now, Soto's got as much protection as anybody in baseball.
And I really think, protection is just so overrated. I mean, we saw how many years did we ask for the Mets to, you got to get protection for Pete Alonso. He needs protection. They never did. And he either had a good season or he had a bad season. Last year, they got him JD Martinez as protection. And he still didn't play well. And this year, no offense to Brandon Nimmo or any of the other guys, that's not protection for Pete Alonso. And
no, I'd much rather pitch to Nimmo than Alonso.
Absolutely.
But what they say is there is that, okay, but Lindor and Soto might already be on base. There's no way to put them, so you can't really pitch around them to get to them. It reads into things a little bit. It gets a little deep into the weeds with that.
It's too much, especially when Lindor right now is not getting on base at the clip he was last season. Soto's not either. So Pete Alonso's creating havoc on his own in big spots, and hopefully it continues throughout the entire season. Obviously,
I'm sorry. So for everybody getting on Soto, just wait till he heats up. Wait till he goes on a heater, and you're gonna be like, wow.
Yeah,
that's how good this player is.
You mentioned it too about the weather. They go from Houston and Miami in hot weather. They come home and it's freezing. They go to Oakland. Yeah, absolutely freezing.
They go to people in Minnesota the other night.
Yeah, they go to Oakland. And, you have one of the worst fields and clubhouses you could possibly be at. And then you got to go to Minnesota where, again, it's freezing. So once the weather heats up a little bit, things will change here. As we wrap up this show, some news and happenings. We talked about Jeff McNeil and Francisco Alvarez, both of them on rehab assignments. Jeff McNeil getting reps in center field, like I mentioned earlier. He's batting .375. He's got a .920 OPS at Single A St. Lucie Mets right now. Francisco Alvarez, Double A Binghamton, 2 for 3 in his debut with a homer. I mentioned he got hit in his hand, the same hand he got fractured. A little bit of a scare there, but he's okay. He came out in the 6th inning, and he is playing in the game currently.
Any update on Hunter Wendelstedt? who got nailed with the ball today?
I think he went to the hospital, but he's okay. I think that
Okay.
after the game was over, Carlos Mendoza said he was okay. Crazy set of events
Crazy.
because he had blown a huge call earlier on in the game where it cost the
Yes.
Mets a run, and the guy was clearly out. You could
Yes.
tell by the camera, but the Mets had no challenges left. So, it is what it is. Hopefully, Wendelstag has a quick recovery, but I didn't even see the ball leave Tyrone Taylor's bat. That's how fast that happened.
My wife was saying, why don't they wear helmets? I was like, yeah, maybe you might be onto something.
Probably should. They probably should. They had to work with three umpires after that, but hopefully he's okay and he has a speedy recovery. Bob, before we wrap up the show here, let everyone know where they can follow you, all the social media, what you got coming up, what you're working on.
Yeah, Locked Up Sports. Our website is lockedupsports.net. So check us out. You can find us YouTube at Locked Up Sports, TikTok at Locked Up Sports. Basically, if you go into any of the social medias and you type in Locked Up Sports, we'll come up there. And like I said, we cover all sports. We're not just baseball. We do a ton of Mets. We get a bunch of good guests on. Working on possibly having Mike Breen next week during the NBA playoffs. Where listen, we have fun with it. It's me and my buddy. Sometimes it's a lot of solo shows with me because we both work in jail. That's where the Locked Up Sports comes from. A lot of people think it's a gambling thing, but it's a jail thing. So I'm going right now. Actually, right after we sign off here, I'm going to Rikers Island. So we love it. We have good time. We have good guests, and then like Anthony said, give us a check out www.lockedupsports.net or all social media or anywhere you get your podcasts.
Even covering the Masters after
Masters,
a thrilling Sunday with you got to get Rory McIlroy on the show.
Oh yeah, he's coming on tomorrow.
Jim Nance, I heard you had some issues with Jim Nance.
You know what, Nance with the golf, he's over the top. Come on, Nance, and he's good. Listen, I like Nance. I like Nance with basketball. I like Nance with football. But with the golf, it's just he's too much of a prototype golfer. Yeah, don't get me started. It's 9 o'clock. Don't get me started.
I saw the clip earlier and I had to bring it up. I had to bring it up.
Check out our TikToks because that's where you get stuff like that. As we put stuff on the TikTok.
You can follow me as you see up on the top of the screen on X, Instagram, TikTok at Subway to Shea. You can follow me personally at Ant Rivera 86. Subscribe on Apple Podcasts and Spotify if you'd like to listen to the show, which will be up tomorrow morning, and as well as subscribe on YouTube. If you're here right now, it's because you're on YouTube. You're joining and you're being a part of the chat like you were today. 132 of you guys and gals were in here, so I appreciate everyone for tuning in and being a part of the show. For Anthony Rivera, for Bob Walters of Locked Up Sports, you've been listening to Subway to Shea, and as I always like to close out with, let's go Mets.